Hey, John here. So here's a new series that's going to be a very recurring thing on this Practice Room Premium plan. So as you can see here, I call it Inside My Practice Room, and I basically just show you what I practice. And some of these routines I do over several days. Some things I might do only for a couple of days, depending on my needs. And I think depending on where you're at in your guitar playing journey, or whatever you want to call it, you might need to stay a bit longer on certain things because it's still challenging to you. So don't necessarily try to emulate however long I do this, even if I would mention that. So it's going to be very specific to where you're at in your own playing. So just try them out, and if you feel that it helps you, and you can really only tell that after a couple of days, then keep doing them until you feel like, well, I'm really bored with this one now, and then go on to something else. But basically, I'm just showing you what I do currently, and hopefully you can gain something from that as well. And if nothing else, actually see that I'm also practicing. I'm not just, making content or whatever. I still want to improve, and I still want to keep my chops up, obviously. So with that said, this is a 2 notes per string pentatonic picking practice thing, and I'm just gonna go through this very briefly, so you don't need to watch a 15-minute video. And it's also abbreviated in the way that I wrote it out in the tab. Instead of writing everything out, there will be a huge file, and I don't think anyone would read it anyway. You just need to understand the concept of the exercise, and then it's pretty easy to just get started with. One thing, I tend to practice at exactly this tempo, 80 BPMs, 2 notes per beat, just so I can keep my accuracy up for these type of exercises. And I focus on really getting a good tone and moving quickly from note to note. So if I play this, for example, see, I'm not sluggish with my right hand. I'm not doing this. I want the notes connected but not bleeding into each other. And that's actually the first exercise here, but we start here with the first fret. So basically you want to start with shape number 1, as you have written out there. So if you're a bit, hit or miss with some of these shapes, that will get sorted out really quickly here, because you're going to take each of these 5 shapes and do all 5 daily with just the scale up and down, and also later on that I'm going to show you the groups of 6 pattern. So that alone will take you, if you keep this tempo, will take you over half an hour to get through. So that's a really good thing, because you will basically get rid of any type of weaknesses when it comes to these individual patterns. Now, what you want to do then, you start with minor pentatonic shape number 1, and you just start as low as you can, and you just go up. Alternate picking, starting with a downstep. You do that all the way up until you run out of frets, so it will be here for me. And once I've done that, I restart here, and then I start with an upstroke instead. So this is very important for any type of exercise with an even number of notes per string, because if you start with a downstroke, it's always going to be a downstroke for the next string, and if you start with an upstroke, it's always going to be an upstroke. So you want to be good using both. And so on, all the way back. Once you're done with shape number 1, you start with shape number 2. And the fingering that I use for these is basically 1 finger per fret where possible. So this would be 2, 4, 1, 4, 1, 4, 1, 3, 2, 4, 2, 4. And so on, all the way up. Turn around, starting on an upstroke, go all the way back down. Then shape number 3. This fingering is really helpful, actually. Instead of doing this, 2, 4, 2, 4, 2, 4, 1, 4, and then have to shift here, I keep 1, 3 here, and just stretch my index finger. Now, it's not that comfortable at the first fret, but it's very, easy to do when you get higher up on the fretboard. The trade-off here is that you don't need to move your hands. If you look at my 3rd finger here, my 3rd finger is always on this fret, so that can be used as like an anchor for you to focus on, so you know where you're at in the shape. Because this shape can feel a bit weird sometimes, because you kind of this, you feel like you're position shifting inside of a shape. So if you had trouble with that, try this fingering as well. All right, so that would be like this. And so on. And then we have shape number 4, and I'm just going through this so you can see the fingering that I use, and I use this fingering for all the exercises later on. So shape number 4 fits really well within 1 finger per fret. So. And so on. And the final shape, shape number 5, this also works well with a 1 finger per fret fingering. So. And so on. And all of these again, you turn around up here, starting with a downstroke and going back. So, once you've done that, we're gonna go into a 2-string focus. And this is a really important thing that I actually learned from Vinnie Moore's first video. So he would do this with a 3-note per string thing where he would play 3-note per string across all 6 strings, but then he would also focus on playing 2 strings at a time, because in his words, you use different muscles depending where you're at. I'm not sure how true that is, but it really feels different if you play here or if you play up here. So for different reasons. So just working through that will make sure that the whole thing gets stronger. So with that said, you take one of the shapes that you've been working on, and I just wrote out the first string group here with shape number 1. So let's say you do shape number 1, which one it is. Within this shape, you have 5 different string groups on a 6-string guitar. So you have this shape, and you take that shape and move it up in half steps. So all the way up to here, we start with an upstroke, go down. Then you do it again, but now you do the descending. So you go same way, all the way up, start with an upstroke here. And once that's done, you go to the next string group, still thinking in this shape number 1. So like this. That all the way up, and same thing, ascending and descending, shape string group 3. Do that, and then you have the next one from the G string, and finally the B and E string. Right, so you cover one shape in that way. And what shape you choose, that's up to you. I would do them in order. So if you do this over a 5-day period, you would do shape 1 on day 1, shape 2 on day 2, and so on. What you can do later though is if you find that, well, I'm kind of really crappy at shape 3, it's fine to do that for several days when it comes to these isolated exercises. So I'm going to leave that up to you. Now we're going to do basically the same thing, but we're going to base it on groups of 6. So the groups of 6 is just this. So you have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Restart on the A string. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Restart on D string and G string. And then shift up a fret and then go down the same way. Right, so connect them. Again, starting on an downstroke, going all the way up, and then you do the same thing, starting on an upstroke when you go back down. And you do that for all 5 shapes. So this is, well, I mean, I can't force you, but for me it's a non-negotiable. I would do the full scale thing, all 5 shapes, and then I would do whatever shape I feel needs more practice, or just do 1 shape per day. For the isolated exercises, the 2-string exercises. And then for the groups of 6 here, I would do all 5 shapes again every day. And then I would do, for the next section here, the last section, where basically we're gonna do 1 group of 6 up chromatically. So this is gonna be trickier actually, because you're gonna go, so a string skip from the D string to the E string. But that's great. That's something you need to get used to anyway, and this will help you with the full sequence as well, because the full sequence will actually feel easier. So again, we just base this on shape number 1 now, but you want to do this in all of the shapes, and once you've done that a few times, you can go and choose whatever shape you find the most annoying, and then you work on that. All right, so. And then when you get up here, start with an upstroke and go down. And then you do this opposite, so you go the descending version here. So. And same thing, start with an upstroke and then going down. And then you do that on the next string set, and again you let the overall shape guide you. That one, next, and so on. So I think it's fairly obvious, hopefully, and you can probably see why I didn't write everything out. Probably more annoying than helpful. So give this a try. If you have any questions about this, just leave them in the comments below or use the forum. And yeah, good luck practicing and see you in the next one.